А ви? Ви з камерою? Ви військовозобов'язаний?
Вони іноземці.
Я іноземець.
Звідки ви?
Я з Лондона.
З Лондона? В Британії є обов'язкова військова служба? Немає? А якщо Британії доведеться воювати, чоловіки будуть воювати?
А підкажіть, а ви в курсі, що по стандартам НАТО на лінії бойового зіткнення 6 місяців повинен провести боєць?
These women are fed up of seeing able-bodied men in civilian clothes. They want their husbands back.
We're at the bail hearing of a serviceman who publicly left his unit. Here, with banners in support of his protest, wives of other soldiers, men who've been defending our country for more than 1,000 days.
Not all women are prepared to wait so long, especially those who went abroad, but also those who stayed. I'm trying to save my family.
The defendant is 25-year-old Serhii Gnezdilov, who says he left his unit to draw attention to the need for reform. In particular, for the right to leave the army after a certain period of time. He's allowed out of his cage to speak.
Your Honor, respected citizens, for 5 years I've been defending Ukraine, agreeing to a temporary restriction of my personal freedom because it was necessary, because Russia attacked us. Today it feels like I am on trial not for desertion, but for having the courage to say that soldiers are not slaves. If we carry on fighting like today with exhausted infantrymen, they will end up mobilizing the police inspector too, and the prosecutor. But later, when the Russian army will again be at the gates of Kyiv.
The judge refuses to grant Gnezdilov bail. The government has promised to legislate on wartime demobilization. Alyona, together with other soldiers' wives, regularly stages pickets to ask why it still hasn't.
If you've got a printed appeal, we can pass it on.
We gave them our appeal a long time ago. We're waiting for them to keep their promises.
The protests are authorized despite martial law. But no bill has even been debated.
They say we haven't got enough people. We can't let anyone go. So there won't be demobilization. But this is a vicious circle because today nobody wants to be handed a one-way ticket.
Можна чоловіка спитати.
Patrols hand out military papers in Ukrainian cities on a daily basis. Or try to.
Давай. Доброго дня.
Доброго дня. Шановний, можна декілька хвилин?
Шановний.
Шановний.
In such situations, it's useful if we have police officers with us because they have the right to arrest people. Unfortunately, we don't have that right.
Most of those on the streets of Kharkiv today seem to be ineligible.
A lot of people have got exemption documents. Companies in any field that's deemed important for the country get exemptions for their employees.
Some may have obtained exemptions, medical ones in particular, by paying bribes. In October, more than $5 million in cash was found at the home of one medical official. Meanwhile, social media are awash with videos of draft officers and police packing men into their vehicles or trying to get them out of their own cars. It's not always clear whether undue force is used, but sometimes it is. Much promoted on Russian-backed channels, the videos and corruption scandals have stoked a climate of hostility towards draft officers.
People often misplace their aggression, which should be directed against those who are undermining the defence of Ukraine and not against those who are trying to strengthen it. Because if it weren't for us, the brigades would not be replenished. And if the brigades were not replenished, this whole scene you see here of apparently peaceful life would not exist. It's only thanks to the draft that the front is still holding at all. How else do you think we're going to recruit new soldiers? There's no other way.
Військові, старий, жінка. Я взагалі нікого не бачив, чи чисто.
It's not always like this, you know. I think there are still a lot of people whose position is basically that they won't volunteer to fight, but if they get drafted, then so be it.
When Russia invaded in February 2022, civilians flocked to military enlistment offices in their hundreds of thousands. Among them, Alyona's husband. She says other civilians, even in Ukraine, still don't fully understand what that meant.
Friends and acquaintances were asking whether he might be home for Christmas. I'd look at them like they're from a different planet. That's not how it works.
It's like he's been deleted from the picture. I've started to miss him a lot.
The family keep in touch, mainly by phone.
Привіт. Привіт. Так, ну у нас тут такий сьогодні відбувається інтерв'ю. Привіт. Так, тут у нас Гулівер.
Fighting in the northeast, he doesn't want to be identified, but is happy to talk.
I find it hard to imagine life after the war. That's a bit frightening. Maybe I should be able to. But we keep on fighting because we have to. We have something to fight for, we have motivation, but we'd like to find some more strength for it somehow.
Today we stood for a long time near the parliament, me and other wives. But from the ruling party, servant of the people, no one came to talk to us. It's an affront.
They ought to communicate openly, if only to say why it's yes to this and no to that, why they are postponing the reform. But there should be communication.
Yes, but they don't. Men will continue to go AWOL, and that doesn't help strengthen the army at all.
Since 2022, Ukraine has recorded 95,000 cases of soldiers deserting or going AWOL. Many are in hiding. Others are working with lawyers, saying the army failed to take into account their health or family problems.
We filed the complaint about that unit violating soldiers' rights.
These men say they want to return to service in non-frontline roles, but the enthusiasm of the early days is gone.
Back then, there was this big sense of unity, patriotism and all that. People really wanted to fight. Now time has passed and corruption has influenced people's thinking. They feel like they're being cheated in some way.
Numerous public scandals suggest that corruption is affecting not just the draft, but also the purchase of equipment and construction of defensive lines. Investigations often lead to high-profile dismissals, even arrests, but rarely to convictions. Sehik Nezdilov, himself still on trial for desertion, says that's got to change.
We've got to keep fighting, but without forgetting the internal enemy, because the internal enemy also kills. Corruption kills. Incompetence also kills.
He refutes allegations that his actions could discredit Ukraine and impact international aid.
Our internal problems are not a reason to stop helping us. Europe's security depends on Ukraine's security. It is not the people who are going AWOL who discredit the army, but the fact that we have not worked out a mechanism for solving the problem, because we don't have fixed terms of service.
Today, Nezdilov remains in detention. He will ultimately be released in late January, having agreed to return to his unit. But would fixed terms of service really help swell the ranks?
This idea that we'd have more people in the army if we set time limits on service, I don't agree with it, no. We would not end up with more people. I think what we need to limit is how long people are directly engaged in frontline fighting, because people need to rest from battle.
Fatigue is not the only problem. Truant soldiers often complain of incompetent commanders. In November, 2 reforms were introduced. One allowing men who'd gone AWOL to return to service without penalty, another making it easier to change brigades. Within a month, 6,000 came back.
We got no support from my previous commanders. They paid us no attention. I had to go AWOL. It just wasn't possible to serve there. Here, the instructors have got a good attitude. They show us things, they teach us. If it were like this everywhere, I think the army would be a lot more effective.
Пошли, пошли, пошли. Тут надо рывок, штурм, то є динаміка. Пошли, пошли, пошли. Уявіть собі, що
Just imagine, a man is defending some position and every day he sees his comrades getting killed. If no one has properly explained things to him, if no one has worked on his psychological state, that's it, he's off. We're not all born soldiers. Plus, damn it, this is a very, very tough and bloody war, so it's hardly surprising that some guys go AWOL.
таке явище, як СЗЧ, для мене воно не дивно.
Siver says proper preparation is key. His approach is to tell it like it is, with a bit of gallows humour.
If they cut off my leg, they'll give me a prosthetic. I'll live on with a prosthetic limb. Sad, but who cares? Won't stop you seeing your kids. It's not the end of the world, but if you learn how to properly pack a wound, then there's a good chance you'll keep your limb. The training manuals aren't bad, but we do have to adapt them to our reality because there's never been a war like this one. So if I kick the bucket and you don't, you'll finish that job. Tell them this bit is wrong, damn it. Rewrite it like this, damn it. Got it?
Despite everything, Siver still believes that Ukraine can turn the tide.
Нам 3 флет-вайта і 1 капучино.
In the trenches, our guys are enduring wave after wave after wave of Russian attacks. I really wouldn't wish it upon anyone to be out there right now. We're losing territory, but we're not about to surrender. It's them who will run out of people, and the job will be ours to finish off.
Дальше буде вже робота за нами.
Everyone interviewed for this report spoke of great hardship and exhaustion. Many voiced serious complaints about Ukraine's military and civilian leadership. But none thought Ukraine could or should give up the fight, let alone that the West should give up on Ukraine.